Wine, a simple pleasure until you start to enjoy it, then it's not simple at all. It's complicated, complex as winos, Australian vintners would say, and lovers of wine have done their best to further complicate its consumption ever since its accidental discovery in Australia 30 years ago by this blue nun. And it sure was complicated for this blue nun, who was only blue from lying upside down in an icy creek as a consequence of drinking 4 litres of grape juice, which wasn't quite right. She discovered wine, and whilst lying there slowly going bluer and waiting for her legs to start to work, she wasn't wondering if there was just a tad too much oak, and she was wondering if she'd have been better off cellaring the first 3 litres instead of drinking the lot. I bet she wasn't even paid a penny for being on the label, but she would have been pleased she wasn't portrayed lying upside down in a creek. Wine used to be easy to understand. If it required a bottle opener to get at it, it's probably not wine. If it has a ring pull on it, it's probably not wine. If it has a cork in it, chances are it could be wine. Or it could also be sheep dip, which will give you a dreadful hangover. But then, if you're lying in a creek chatting up a nun, at least you won't get fly blown. So once you're able to identify wine by its container, you have a choice. You can either stay on the righteous path to obesity, lose sight of your feet and other important bits and drink beer, or you can release your inner Greek, pledge allegiance to the great god Bacchus and follow the winding path of the grape. There are 4 types of wine: red, white, still and fizzy. Still means it's flat, fizzy means don't look at your thumbs whilst you open it. Fizzy is fast-acting and dangerous, capable of turning a woman into a wobbly, giggly cross between Madonna and Mr. Bean, and requiring her husband to have mastered the fireman's lift and a degree in psychology. Now known in France as champagne, as they weren't allowed to call theirs passion pop after the town in South Australia where it was invented, it has a 4-stage opening system, forcing wobbly, giggly women back to the Blue Nun before the police are required. Of course, the 4-stage system of opening doesn't always work, and the true cognoscenti of fizzy wine can often be seen taking the sabre off a passing nobleman and whipping the top off, cork and all. This is often followed by giggles and occasionally screams as the follow-through slices the host's legs off at the knees, thus explaining the term legless. The opposite to fizzy wine is still wine. No bubbles, so you can look at your thumbs when you open it. It comes in larger glasses, meaning a lower step to refill ratio, less falling over and no fruit. Would you put a chunky chip in a fine chilled glass of Pilsner or a sliver of haggis in a single malt scotch? No, you wouldn't. The difference between reds and whites isn't difficult unless you're blind. If you are, it's back to the containers. Red comes in a large spherical glass, white in a less large, slightly ovoid glass. Coffee in a cup, and sherry should only be served in a cake. This container-centric approach was pivotal in the evolution of wine culture, wine glasses, and maybe even in the evolution of cake. Anyway, to the average enthusiast there was no difference between red wine and white wine, and if they couldn't choose, there was always rosé, obviously a blend. From here it was all downhill. Complication was in, and drinking for pleasure, therapy and thirst was out. The grape had been discovered to be available in more than just the ancient varieties of red, white, oval and round, and it became obvious that the colour of the grape had nothing to do with the colour of the wine, and the shape of the grape nothing to do with anything at all. It had been trodden on. Different flavours were obtained by stirring the wine with a giant oak spoon. Some even said the flavours came from the barrel that the wine was stored in. Corks were replaced with aluminium caps because most of us wouldn't know the difference between a corked wine and one that was a bit acidy with just a hint of toad. Suddenly, wine was not just the drink of the gods passed down to man to remind him of his mortality. It was a 4-year university degree with too short a practical component. It wasn't just what was consumed at dinner, it was the reason for the dinner. It was the reason for the conversation at dinner. In fact, it was the reason for being there at all. People now know what they're drinking, or at least understand the containers. Bottle good, box bad. They want to know what year it was laid down, not just how to get the spout out of the container. No longer can a blue nun be slipped in with a Grange Hermitage, saying, maybe it just needs another couple of years under the sink, Dennis. Know your wine. Don't you be seen as a beer drinker, hiding amongst the sophisticates, all pontificating about legs, bouquet and a certain dustiness. Legs? It's still wine. Why would it need legs? Damn it, I've only just learnt how to tell the colour. Bouquet? What's flowers got to do with it? Is it a special wedding wine? And the dustiness, that should have been filtered out by the fish and eggs. Fish and eggs? Read it, it's on the label. My vegan friend won't touch the stuff. Exploits the yeast apparently. So, your next finely matured drop, if the winemakers are honest at all, should state that it's best consumed after a light vacuuming, has a hint of freshly stung mullet and the fine bouquet of a cheese omelette. Anyone for scotch?